Hi, and welcome to the Tita Talks podcast. I'm your host, Daaca, and this podcast is to inspire thoughtful action. Big love to our friends over at Radyo Kapwa for their love and care and literal technical support in getting this podcast to you every last Wednesday of the month. Okay, so let's get into it. I feel like a lot has transpired since we last spoke a month ago. So one of the things that has transpired since that time is that I turned 32. I had a birthday on October 16th, and I'm really one of those people who just loves a birthday. I love a birthday so much. I'm certainly that friend in your life who's like, it's my birthday week, it's my birthday month, so I love the celebration. I also love the concept of self-celebration as like a real embodied liberation practice. So I am definitely someone who likes to celebrate everything all the time, but especially a birthday. So when my birthday comes around, I'm extremely self-reflective. I think on a regular day, I'm probably pretty self-reflective, but especially in the October months, especially around my birthday, I'm extra self-reflective. And if you were to ask my 22-year-old self, like rewind 10 years ago from now, if you were to ask my 22-year-old self how I felt about turning 32, I think I'd be really freaked out by it. And, you know, back when I was 22, just to provide some context, I was very colonized in my mind and how I guess my relationship with time was very colonized at that time. I really felt like, by 32, I should have this and have achieved this and, done this and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of it was like things that I deep down didn't really care about. And it's really freeing to think about the fact that I am free from those expectations. Like, mind you, I still fall into the trap of it sometimes, but yeah, if you ask my 22-year-old self today what I thought I should be doing at 32, it was definitely, down a very conventional path. And I'm really glad that I course corrected myself into essentially a different timeline. So 31 was probably one of my favorite years. Actually, every single year that I get older, I say like, oh, the last year was my favorite year. And I think that that's just who I am in nature. Like, it just all feels very expansive. Like, every year is better. I know this year is going to be even better. And if I could put a overarching theme for 31, I would say it was the year that I really got still and tuned into myself. And what a gift that is. I think in this journey of decolonizing and just becoming more awake to the systems that I exist in. Colonization works real hard every day. Other systems of oppression work hard really day to keep us disconnected to ourselves. So I just think like, what a beautiful gift to be able to give that to myself. This getting closer to my truest self every day. And when I think about the concept of aging and getting older, I'm not so fearful these days of it. I just think that I keep getting closer to a truer version of myself. And actually the way that I imagine it is like I'm almost like factory resetting myself back to some like ancestral way of being. Like I know that I have all of these things inside of me, but it's just about tapping into them. So 31, really the theme of that year is getting still, tuning into myself, understanding that I'm fully resourced to do the things that I want to do. So doing something a little bit different with this episode today. So with that in mind, with this stillness in mind, today's episode is going to be really about that stillness and the messaging that has come from that activity. So we are doing 32 messages from my ancestors, maybe from your ancestors too, I don't know. 32 messages from my ancestors, which to me feels like a gift on my birthday, right? And some of these will kind of come out as like things that I've learned, lessons learned, but I kind of hear these like whispers of it every day, right? Like in the stillness of every day, I hear it when I do slow down enough to hear it. I hear that especially when I'm close to the water or in the water. There's something really powerful about that. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it other than I just cry every time I'm close to a large body of water. And I think that says something. I just get very emotional near the water. Yeah. So that's the message I feel called to share today. 32 messages from my ancestors. And again, in this theme of spending the last year or so being really intentional about being stiller, slowing down, I think it's a way for me to come back to myself. And the messaging really also helps me to, in this idea of like aging and getting older, that messaging really helps me not fear that I'm not on a certain timeline that I'm supposed to be on or achieving things I'm not currently doing, because we're just perfectly resourced. And the last thing I want to share about this whole thing before we get into 32 messages from my ancestors is this idea that our ancestors will always bring us back. And when I think about birthdays and like gifts that I can give to myself, it's that time and space and stillness to be able to hear these types of messages, right? Like, again, every year I'm trying to get closer back to this like factory reset version of myself. But you really have to gift yourself the time of stillness and slowing down in order to even hear these things. So let's get into it. Okay, number one on this list feels like the perfect way to start the whole list. Number one, I am perfectly resourced. And I heard this message just loud and clear. Oh, I was in a body of water. It was a pool, so that feels like it counts in my mind as a water. I am perfectly resourced. This messaging was so clear this summer, especially as it relates to Tita Talks. So to recap, I've had the idea for Tita Talks for almost a year and a half before I ever did anything with it, and I am very much a recovering perfectionist. So I sat on it. I just never felt like it was good enough or that it was ready. And again, to recap, kind of episode one dialogue is I just got this message that I'm perfectly resourced. And not too long afterwards, I heard from France and the team from Radyo Kapwa about helping to get this podcast to you every month. And I think once I got into this place of understanding that I am perfectly resourced both within myself and in community, it's like the right things came along. So number one, I am perfectly resourced. Number two, and this has been such a huge theme of the last year, almost unintentionally. Number two, no matter where I go, my people will be there. And oof, it's been such a big year for that message this year. To provide some context, I've been traveling a lot. The way that I'm living right now is nomadically. I don't really understand the whole digital nomad part. Like, am I a digital nomad? I'm living in the real world though, so that feels always strange to say. But the way that my partner and I have set up our lives is that we are in a different city almost month to month. Instead of rent, we're paying Airbnb and flights. And almost, no, it's been over a year now. Last June, I got rid of my apartment, my car, packed up most of my stuff into my parents' and my sister's basements, and I've been on the go pretty much since then. And, I think I have felt a little bit unsettled and unrooted because of the way that we're living. But this year has really shown me that, if I stay aligned to myself and I guess the work that I feel called to do, like this soul purpose work, and that's on Tita Talks, that's on Reclaim Your Wealth, that's, the community gatherings that we're doing via Tita Talks. When I say true to that work, the right people will find it and it'll align. And I'm not saying that like my people are there because I'm doing work. I think there have been a lot of places that we've been and I've felt really cared for. And this will come out in a different message later on in the podcast, but I think it's also this idea of accepting help and, being open to accepting help. So number 2, no matter where I go, my people will be there. Number 3, what would hot Tita do? So I like this message very much. I once had a friend, her name is Hannah. She does Akashic readings. And if you don't know too much about that, I mean, personally, I don't know too much about that. But to put simply, she kind of connects you back to your ancestors. And if there's any messages or stories or healing that needs to be done in those relations. And one time I was on a call with Hannah and she was getting this message, more like an image, I guess, of she just imagined like the women in my family, like my lineage. And I guess you could imagine like a bunch of aunties that came before me. And she just imagined this like chain and that it was breaking through it. And that image has stayed so clear in my mind since she said it to me. And this was probably like 2 years ago. But it's essentially kind of the spirit of this podcast, even like we are the Titas who are going to be breaking the generational curses. We are the Titas where a lot of these things are going to stop with us. So when I say like, what would hot Tita do? I don't necessarily mean hot in like, in like an appearance or what you look like, but it's an energy, right? We're the hot Titas who are going to break the generational curses. So I really try to step into that, embody that when I'm feeling fearful about something or deciding on what to do next, or even something as simple as like, okay, would hot Tita sleep in till 9 a.m.? Sometimes the rest is what hot Tita would do, but sometimes she would get up early and, dedicate time to her projects and record this podcast, that type of thing. So number 3, what would hot Tita do? Think about it, embody it, do the thing. That I've been doing that a lot in the last year, 31. Okay, number 4. The thing that you're worried about actually works out better than you can imagine. Yeah, I feel like I get trapped in this like loop of worry sometimes. And then it kind of goes back to this idea of being perfectly resourced and that like everything is actually going to be fine. In kind of a silly example of this, I was in Vancouver earlier this year and just like, in my mind now, unnecessarily freaking out about something. I was probably minorly inconvenienced by a thing, but then it kind of snowballed into more, right? So, I've got these project deadlines and I don't have enough, I guess, like freelance work that's keeping me interested. I was just feeling, I guess, uninspired at that point. And this is like April of this year. So I was in Vancouver, just like feeling really uninspired. It was raining every single day. I was just like such a grump. And that morning I had decided to go work at a coffee shop. And at that point I had already been to that coffee shop like 2 or 3 times. So, you get to a place and you like have a spot. Okay. I'm very much a habitual coffee shop person. Like once I have my favorite spot, like I just want to go there, put my head down and work, get my things done. And the other times that I'd been there, it'd been really easy to get a spot in the coffee shop. And, earlier that day, I'd kind of reflected on this idea of like, what is my intention for the day? Like I was really out there, like I'm going to do this work. It's gonna be great. And I got to the coffee shop and it was so busy. I couldn't get a good spot in the coffee shop. My spot wasn't available. And I was immediately just like upset about it. Ended up getting this spot by the door and it was all drafty and cold and I was all upset. And I think once I tuned back into like an intention, literally not like 10 minutes later, the coffee shop emptied, I got my spot, and I just remember having this feeling like, okay, everything actually always works out in my favor. I get special treatment everywhere I go. That second one I actually always also say to myself very often, but all of these things kind of work out just fine. They actually work out just fine. And I don't need to worry. That's like actually maybe the bigger message here is the thing that you're worried about actually works out better than you can imagine. And I just remember sitting in that coffee shop and just like, okay, let me just leverage this feeling of, oh, here's this dread that you felt about sitting at this crappy spot in the coffee shop. And, a couple of minutes later, your favorite spot opened up and it's this cozy, nice corner. It's got pillows. It's away from the door. And I ended up obviously getting my spot in the coffee shop. But it's really about leveraging that feeling of like, okay, it all just works out fine, even better than you can imagine. And I know it's like a silly example of it, but I really felt it at that time. So that's been a big message this year. Number 5, really building off the last one here. Number 5, you are still valuable in your slower seasons. Oof. I think I'm just gonna oof after every single message that I share. But number 5, you are still valuable in your slower seasons. This one's really hard for me to, I guess, embody every day because I'm someone who likes to keep busy. There's a lot to unpack on that one there. Why do you want to stay busy? Why do you feel most valuable when you are busy and producing and a productive member of capitalism? Member of capitalism? Does that make any sense? You know what I mean. But I think this like hyper productivity, needing to do something all of the time is just how I've always been programmed. So the unlearning of that is really hard. So this idea that I am still valuable in my slower seasons is one of those things that I need to hear a lot more often because I don't know that I really fully embody that yet. But this isn't intended to be like a perfectly, bundled up lessons learned kind of thing. It's just messages from my ancestors, right? So number 5, you are still valuable in your slower seasons. Number 6 is I am with you always. I don't think I even need to say anything after that because I could just cry thinking about this message of I am with you always as a message from my ancestors. And I did certainly take this from my good friend Richie, who I would love to be listening right now. That'd be great. Richie, if you're listening, this one's about you. Richie shared this message that almost felt like a download from his ancestors at an event that we were at together at MFBC, so Manitoba Filipino Business Council, and ANUC. And yeah, it's just such a beautiful message. And since he said it, that one has really stayed with me. So I'm taking that as one of our collective ancestors' message of I am with you always. Number 7, you were meant to do big things. I have always heard this message, I think. I've always been someone who believes that they were meant to do big things, meant for greatness. I will leave it at that. Simply said, you were meant to do big things. Number 8, take up space with your stories and your ideas. So, especially with Tita Talks, I've lately been feeling called to share certain messages and, even to kind of bundle up 7 and 8 as, you were meant to do big things, take up space with your ideas, take up space with your stories. I think the spirit of the work that I'm doing these days in Reclaim Your Wealth and Tita Talks Gather, the real kind of core of it is that your stories actually deserve the airtime. We should hear the things that you have to say. And I don't necessarily mean that as like me having things to say to you, but I mean that for all of us. There is so much wisdom in our stories. Stories allow us to transcend location, allow us to connect back to ourselves, connect back to ancestry. So take up space with your stories and your ideas. You're being called to share a message for some reason. Before I post almost anything, before I start recording a podcast, before I post something on Instagram, I always kind of preface that with like, somebody out there needs this. Even just one person, like one person needs this. Number 9, it's not a problem until it's a problem. And if it does become a problem, it's not really a problem. And this must be coming from one of my like rambly ancestors because I don't know this notice that I wrote down. It's not a problem until it's a problem. And if it becomes a problem, it's really not a problem. Which now that I'm reading it a second time, I quite like this message because I feel like I am sometimes caught in this like spiral infinite loop of worry. And it's the coffee shop idea again, just kind of a different way to say it. But these things that I worry about are actually not a big deal. And I think there's actually a lot of steps down from what I believe failure to really be. And even so, like, ew, what is failure? Like, who decides what failure is? Like, that is also big colonizer vibes. Like, do I actually believe that this point that I reach in this problem is really a failure? No, because I am perfectly resourced. It's actually just fine. So, number 9, it's not a problem until it's a problem. And if it does become a problem, it's not really a problem. Number 10, how your life feels is more important than how it looks. So I really feel like this message is about like following joy and a certain curiosity of life, about life, instead of trying to create this life that looks really cool. And mind you, I think my life is cool, not because I'm trying to build a life that looks cool, but I think in following my curiosity and joy and wonder, excitement, things that I want to see, new things that I want to do. It looks cool because I'm having a good time, not because I'm trying to build a life that looks cool. Does that make sense? That makes sense. But the point is, in my lifestyle choices, in the choices of what I'm going to do every day, I'm really trying to center what's going to give me the most ease, what's going to bring me the most joy, and does that next activity kind of fulfill that? Number 11, ingat. Ingat, take care. That's it. Nothing else really to say there except for take care of yourself. Drink more water, move your body, do the things. Number 12, buy the lip gloss. Is that really a message from my ancestors? I don't know. I think the spirit of it very much is. Again, even in the theme of this episode, I'm very much someone who likes to celebrate things. Buy the lip gloss in its spirit is very much like, do the thing that brings you joy. It's kind of the same message in a different package, but I think the idea here is to not be so fearful around the act of buying the lip gloss. Does that make sense? I like how this number 12 is just going so deep, but I think I have a lot of money wounds, money trauma to heal, and this idea of like, okay, just buy the lip gloss. It doesn't necessarily mean to be financially irresponsible. And again, like, ugh, what do those two words even mean together, especially in this like decolonial work? But the spirit of buy the lip gloss is like, it's gonna be fine. Like, just buy the lip gloss. It brings you a lot of joy. We love it. It's a fun way to celebrate something. I tend to buy like a really expensive lip gloss when I'm done a project. So I think that's where this is coming from. But on a day-to-day, I will just buy another fun lip gloss. And I just think it brings me a lot of joy. And it's not that serious, is maybe the full message here. Number 13, rip this off of Ali Wong. But again, a message that has stayed very clear in my head is when in doubt, go. And this is not to say like go and run away from your problems, but it's more about the idea that the answer that I'm seeking or the clarification that I need on something isn't going to be found by doing the same thing every day. It's not going to be found in this apartment that I'm staying. Maybe it is, but I think I'm very much an outside person. So it's this message of doing something different to kind of shake up the energy, I guess. Or how I like to interpret when in doubt, go is if I'm deciding to do something or not, it's kind of attempting to quiet the doubt around that decision to go. So when in doubt, go. Just go and see. Number 14, you are safe. And this is another one of those messages where like I could just sit and cry thinking about those 3 words together, you are safe. really applies to a lot of just different situations, but I think the biggest one here is the hypervigilance that I feel walking around in the world, in this body, especially in light of a lot of anti-Asian racism, this question of, am I truly unsafe or am I just uncomfortable? And I think for my own safety, it is important to stay a certain level of hypervigilant because this is the reality of existing in this body, but this message that you are safe. And I think in the height of some of the violence against Asian people during COVID, like I felt it very deeply. And just kind of returning back to the knowing that I am safe and protected and ancestors got your back all the time. Number 15, a job, a degree, or title is not your identity. And this one was especially difficult at 31 when back when I was 31. That one was extremely difficult, I think, to come to terms with last year because I had, after 2 years of working freelance, which was wildly unstable and stressful for different reasons. So after 2 years of working freelance, I returned to a full-time corporate job and I had a lot of, I guess, identity issues around that. And I think before I used to really tie my identity to a job title or a degree or how much money I was making. And what's funny is when you become kind of like a freelance person, you put on this, I won't say put on a persona, but there's this air of like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing it on my own, this like hyper independence that I really kind of fell into. And there was something about that title that fed my ego. So when I went back to a corporate job, I felt like a bit of a sellout. I felt like I was selling my soul for $1. But the way that I have, I guess, changed the narrative in my mind about that job is like, look, here's this thing that I trade my labor for, that I'm good at, that I'm highly skilled at, that pays me well, I get benefits for. I don't hate my coworkers. I actually quite like working with them. And in return, I get the time and space and resourcing to pour into the projects that I really care about and to be able to live the way that I want. So when I look at it as just a tool to facilitate the rest of my life, like this job is not my entire identity, that is a very liberating thought. And I like that message very much. Number 16, less is bless. So not getting caught up in my not enoughness, consumerism, capitalism. I don't actually need for a lot of things. I think the way that I'm living too, very nomadically, is I have to live in a suitcase. I have to live in one check bag and one carry-on bag, and it's not a lot of stuff. It's not very much stuff. So this has actually been really easy to facilitate through this lifestyle. But I think that actually obviously translates to a lot of other areas of my life where like I am enough. And so I don't actually need a lot of things. Number 17, life puts the right people and opportunities in front of you when you're ready to receive them. I like that one. And I think that one really relates to this idea that like no matter where I go, my people will be there, and that the opportunities will be there. I think, in my freelance work of doing Reclaim Your Wealth and doing more contract jobs, there was a real desperate energy around the things that I was doing where like, oh, I had to do this thing, like a real survival mentality that was repelling, I think, the people that I wanted to work with and the opportunities that I wanted to have in my life, I guess, or like the audiences or spaces where I felt like these workshops made the most sense, right? Like here's this sole purpose that I have of, building community wealth and decolonizing the act of negotiation, giving us a space for storytelling and gathering. And, when I was trying to make that my entire, I guess, like income, it was really desperate because, oh, if I don't sell this workshop, if I don't get participants signed up, like I don't eat that month, right? And the energy around it just became kind of icky and I didn't like it. So I'm actually really happy that I can, work in a full-time job, have the space to offer these workshops in a more sustainable way, and be able to offer it in community in a way that feels good to me. Life puts the right people and opportunities in front of you when you're ready to receive them. And it's also this idea of getting ready to get ready. I think that's something that I think about really often too, is if my quote unquote dream opportunity came knocking today, like if this, book deal, or if an organization that I really love wanted to offer me a lot of money to develop a course for them, right? Like on negotiation, or, provide a storytelling workshop, like facilitate that. Would I actually be ready to facilitate that? So this idea of like getting ready to get ready, like what am I doing every day to inch myself closer to those things? And again, not to get caught up in like, I must produce and I must, engage in capitalism, but it's more about a soul purpose work, like a thing that I actually feel really called to do. Am I putting myself in the best, I guess, position to make that happen? Number 18, let people help you. You exist in your relations. That's it. Big Kapwa magic on that one there. Number 19, the thing that you're seeking, love, validation, all exist within you. So I think there are a lot of times where I'm looking for external validation on something, like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not fill in the blank. I'm not this enough. I'm not smart enough. And I need a job or a person or somebody to validate that I am those things, when really that's just something I need to give to myself. And truly, like, the ancestors come in with the messaging of like, are you dumb? Are you dumb? Like, do you really believe that about yourself? And if you've ever taken my workshop, Reclaim Your Wealth, I think the big takeaway in that is, whose voice is that? We start unpacking some of the internal dialogue that happens throughout a negotiation. And really that can be translated to your everyday life of like, okay, whose voice is this inside my head telling me that I'm not enough, or I'm too much, or this and that? Like, I think if you really sit with it, it's not actually your voice. Number 20, keep expanding your reference points. So I mean this in two different ways. So keep expanding your reference points. So in the first way, I mean it as like, see more, when in doubt, go kind of thing. Change your frame of reference by experiencing more of the world, going and seeing, being curious about the world, being curious about the people around you. When we think about this idea of like Kapwa and Kapwa spirit, like Kapwa doesn't just mean, your fellow Filipinos. Like Kapwa is all of us, right? Every kind of person. So like staying curious about the world and the people in it, I think keeping an expansive view of the world just allows you to experience more of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So like expand your reference points, frame of reference. That's how the work that we do gets inspired. That's how we actually care for one another. That's how we truly connect, right? Without extraction, without, an agenda, that kind of thing. And then the second way that I hear this message of expand your reference points is to change the frame of reference for things that already exist. So I think I've given a couple examples of that already, but like, for example, like the coffee shop thing, I could have just gone with the frame of mind reference point that like, today's gonna suck. I didn't get this spot in the coffee shop, but instead I went with, oh, okay, like let's leverage this feeling and go with it. So what number are we at here? Number 20, keep expanding your reference points. Number 21, do the thing before you feel ready. Yeah. So I get a lot of I guess, messaging, encouraging me to keep going. And I think that really is the message here. Like, do this thing before you feel ready. And the reality is, I have never felt 100% ready to do anything before I've done it. Like, really, any important thing in my life, I've never felt 100%. And I don't think that's even possible. Even just right before I hit record on this podcast, I'm like, ooh, I do not feel 100% ready on this, but do the thing before you feel ready. Also, this idea that like done is better than perfect, I like that here too. I think, again, the messaging is always like, you're perfectly resourced. Like, just do the thing, or just do it and try, and it will improve. It will get better. That's just how math and statistics work, right? Girl math or whatever, whatever the people are saying these days. 22. Home is where I am. I really love this one, and I guess especially because of the way that I'm living. But again, in this idea that we have all of these things inside of us, like everything that we need lives within us. At Kapwa Rising, Santra Kapwa's conference that happened last weekend, when Deanne consecrated the space, there was this image now that I'm thinking about a lot of, here we are with our ancestors' hands on our shoulders and their ancestors' hands on their shoulders, and it's just kind of like infinitely ascending. I think the word that was used was ascending. I just thought, like, what a powerful image that is. So home is wherever I am because that all exists within me. Okay, 23. Some things are not meant for you, and that's okay. You weren't meant for everyone. And the reality is, like, I don't want to be for everyone. I think the way that we are socialized, especially as Titas, especially as like women in our community, we're very much socialized to be everything for everyone. I gotta take care of everyone. I've got to be responsible for everyone's feelings and like literally give for other people. I need to spread myself so thin and be palatable for people. And it's just like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to play into those cards anymore. I don't want to be palatable. And here's another Kapwa Rising takeaway. Carousel said this a few times during the conference, and I loved this message so much. Be difficult. Be difficult. And that's not like me going out of my way to go and be difficult, but that's in this hot Tita energy of breaking generational curses. Like, I do not need to be palatable for everybody. So number 23, some things are not meant for you, and that's okay. It's because we weren't meant for everyone. I don't want to be meant for everyone. And in the spirit of that, number 24 is what's meant for you won't miss you. And I think, we're kind of seeing a common theme here of this messaging from ancestors that, like, you don't actually have to worry about things. Like, you are divinely guided, supported, like your ancestors got your back at all times. What's meant for you won't miss you. And even in the times where I felt a lot of tension in my life, or friction, or abrupt change, or something got taken out of my life without my control, or, like these times of like heartbreak, or just feeling like the rug getting pulled out from under you. When I take a step back from those times, when I zoom out from those times, it actually worked out exactly as it's supposed to. So what's meant for you won't miss you. It won't. All right, y'all, nearing the end here. Number 25, nothing good comes from desperate energy. And again, kind of a common theme here around you don't have to worry. You don't have to cling on to things so tightly. You can actually just open your hands to receive. Like, that nervous, desperate, worried energy, nothing good breeds from there. Like, you can't do your soul purpose work if you are feeling small about it, right? I have this thought too that, and this is something that I say during the workshops, like Reclaim Your Wealth, this idea of decolonizing negotiation. I have this thought around wealth and abundance, and it's that I have a hard time believing that all of these grandmas came before me, all of my ancestors came before me for me to suffer and for me to be small, play small, or not have, the resources to do the things that I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I just find it hard to believe that they did all of this, paved this way for me to suffer or struggle or to feel worried all of the time. Like, nothing good comes from desperate energy. Number 26, approach every situation with loving curiosity. I really like this because it really allows for like a genuine connection to people, places, things without extraction or expectation. Really feels like the soft, squishy place where I want Tita Talks to live, both in this podcast and in the Gather series of like actually getting together and sharing stories together. And I think when we approach each other with this loving curiosity, it creates the space for people to feel safe to share their truest selves. And I think also when that's offered out, there's a real reciprocal energy there, right? So approaching every situation with loving curiosity. And that also means to people that like, I don't really like very much, right? Like, I think there's a lot of moments in my life, like even just working with a coworker, I'm like, oh, why would somebody do that? I was about to use a name, but I couldn't come up with a fake one fast enough. Like, why is this person being so mean or being so difficult to work with? And even that situation, approaching that situation with a loving curiosity, I mostly assume that people are just having a hard time on their own. And I think that usually they are. So number 26, approach every situation with loving curiosity. Okay, we're going to rapid fire the next three because they kind of go well together. And I don't think that they need a ton of explanation around them. So number 27, you don't have to decide right now. Number 28, you don't have to have it figured out right now. Number 29, you don't have to do it right now. Love all of those three. And again, really in the spirit of slowing down, tuning into myself, allowing that messaging to come through. You don't have to decide right now. You don't have to have it figured out right now, and you don't have to do it right now. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's okay. You can slow down. You can take a break. And number 30, to kind of wrap up those three really nicely, please be kinder to yourself. I really love the idea of my Lola Choling coming down and just saying like, why are you so mean to yourself? Why are you being so mean? Like, just stop. Like, just please be kinder to yourself. Ooh, I just got very emotional thinking about my grandma saying that to me. Number 30, please be kinder to yourself. Number 31, let your life be a means of liberation. So in your everyday life, like, how am I inspiring tiny acts of liberation? Is this thing that I'm engaging with a means of my liberation? How am I spending my energy here? So in every area of my life, the message is this activity, this relationship, this job, this hobby, whatever, is it a means of my liberation? Sometimes the answer is no, but a lot of times the answer is yes, in the way that I take up space in the world and just like allowing those things to be part of an embodied liberation practice. This list is very much an embodied liberation practice. Anytime I celebrate myself is an embodied liberation practice. And I think in the work of decolonizing and in anti-racism work, like the sustainability of it, I think really requires us to also celebrate and be mindful of our means of liberation. And last message here, number 32, you are enough. So that brings us to the end of the list here. I hope that some of these resonated with you. And as always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Just know that this messaging, in whatever way it looks like for you, is always available in your stillness, in the stillness of every day, in the way that you rest, in whatever your meditative practice is. Maybe it's you go for a run or go to the gym, or maybe it's, drawing or doing an art activity. But I think when we do these things that allow us to tune in to that messaging, it's always there. It's always there, and your ancestors always got your back, and they'll always bring you back. So that brings us to the end of episode 3, Tita Talks, and we'll see you next month, every last Wednesday of the month on Radyo Kapwa.
Babalik ba ang kamay ng oras o lilipad Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon everyone. My name is Marvin Reyes. I am a youth leader and community organizer here bringing you important news back home in the Philippines. The article is from ABS-CBN News with the title, Filipina drag queens Kiki Ko, Melinda Verga join Canada's Drag Race Season 4. Two Filipina drag queens were included in the roster of Canada's Drag Race Season 4. In the meet of the queens reveal on Thursday, Kiki Ko and Melinda Verga were announced as part of the 11-member cast of the show. I'm representing someone that I wish I had when I was a kid. I want to see and I want to show the world what Filipino talent is made of, Kiki Ko said. This is the first time that the Canadian franchise included two Filipina queens in its roster. Kane was the first Filipina queen to join Canada's Drag Race in Season 1, followed by Stephanie Prince and Kimmy Couture in Season 2 and 3 respectively. Kane and Stephanie Prince ended in the journey in 11th and 12th place respectively, while Kimmy Couture made it to the top 4. Drag Race Philippines was recently renewed for a third season along with the Thai and French franchise. Precious Paula Nicole and Captivating Cat Cat are the title holders of Drag Race Philippines, winning in 2022 and 2023 respectively. The Emmy Award-winning original series has featured the talents of Filipino drag queens in the United States and several overseas editions through the years. The article was written by Josiah Antonio and published on October 19, 2023. Thank you so much for listening. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig. Once again, this is Marvin Reyes delivering you Philippine news from abroad.
Oh baby, I've been thinking about you. My mind been floating away, floating away. Oh honey, I want you, I need you. Got a sweet tooth, and I just need me a taste, need me a taste. I've been lonely without you, suffering at home, missing your body. It's been way too long. I need her, baby, my dessert, so pick up the phone. Come on, sugar, just love on me, kiss on me, show me that you taste just like candy, candy. Come on, sugar, just love on me, kiss on me, show me that you taste just like candy, candy. Ooh, ooh, ooh. all your time. 'Cause I don't got no plans today, just these. I'm talking about you, me, palm tree dreams right here beneath these sheets. We could sleeping all day, taking our time, baby, every joy, take it easy. Summertime haze, lay your head back, now it sounds cliche, but you are something special, so won't you stay? Dancing with the cabinet, I like the way you swing. I like the way you swing. You're warmer than the sun-soaked days, bubblier than Chardonnay. I can sit here and binge watch you, just doing the things that you do. You are great and you keep it real A1. Oh, and I could live forever as two, dancing in the living room. We could sleeping all day, taking our time, baby, every joy, take it easy. Summertime haze, lay your head back, now it sounds cliche, but you are something special, so won't you stay? Dancing with the cabinet, I like the way you swing. I like the way you swing. I like the way you swing. I like the way you swing.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Laura from Hiraya Productions, and you're tuned in to Radyo Kapwa. We hope you enjoyed the October episode of Tita Talks, airing every last Wednesday of the month. And big thank you to Ate Kat Daaca for talking about the things we don't talk about enough by sharing her personal experiences. You were truly made for this, and I'm so certain I'm not the only person who resonates and will benefit from these talks. If you're just tuning in, this is Radyo Kapwa on CKUT 90.3 FM, airing every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. We've now reached the final part of every episode, so welcome to this week's community announcements. Next Monday, October 30th, join Cinema Politica Concordia for the Montreal premiere of Baghdad on Fire. The movie will be followed by a Q&A with director Karar Al-Azawi and Iraqi artist Tamara Abdul Hadi. For more information, please see Cinema Politica Concordia's Facebook page. Next up, every day starting 3 p.m., the Palestinian Youth Movement is gathering at Dorchester Square near Peel Metro to spread awareness about the Palestinian cause. If you want to show support and learn more, find them on Instagram at Palestinian Youth Movement. Next up, the Burr months are upon us. Are you in a Christmas shopping mood yet? Because Rising from Our Roots is hosting a queer trans Halloween fair on October 29th from 2 to 7 p.m. at Brique par Brique, located at 633 Beaumont Avenue. This is a crowdfund initiative to redistribute funds to BIPOC queer trans community members who are looking for urgent funds to survive. Vendors will be donating a portion of their sales to the fundraiser. For more information, visit their Instagram page. Centre Kapwa's Ka Collective is hosting their monthly Kaartehan. Whether you call yourself an artist or are flirting with the title, come and hang out with other Filipina, Filipinx, Filipino creatives this Friday, September 29th at 6 p.m. in the Shift Space in the Concordia University Library Building, located at 1455 de Maisonneuve Boulevard West, LB 145. up next. Are you looking for a space to unleash your creativity and try out new art materials? Well, look no further. You can find this at Art Hive Printmaking Workshop at the Refugee Center on October 26th from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. To register, visit their Instagram. And last but not least, October marks Women's History Month across the country. And this month, Kabangka is celebrating with a special Kabangka Talks on the topic of Filipinas in leadership on October 26th at 7 p.m. until 8 p.m. EST on Zoom. You may find the links and the Instagram pages for all of these events on our Instagram page in our stories at Radyo Kapwa. I hope you have a great rest of your day. This was Laura from Hiraya Productions. Mabuhay!